Chad Prather, how are you, sir?
I'm tired, but I'm well.
I know. You look good for being...
Well, I've been in makeup.
Yeah, okay. So you've been on the road every day. You just got back from Midland.
We were in Midland last week. Then we were in Bandera last night. We were in...
Hang on.
Bandera is northwest San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
Cowboy capital of the world.
Is it really?
We had about 2,000 people there last night.
Wow.
At an event. And then night before that, we were in Marble Falls in the Horseshoe Bay area. Tonight, I will be in Conroe. So we've been on the road since 3:30 this morning to get in to do this and, of course, tape my show today. Then we head to Conroe, Montgomery County. And then tomorrow we'll be in Texarkana for 2 events.
And you're having a lot of people show up.
A lot of people.
And who are they?
These are people that are crawling out from under the rocks, coming out of their bunkers. They're tired of business as usual. They want government out of their life, which is my platform. Let's get government out of your life. These are folks that have maybe never voted in a primary. A lot of them haven't voted in 25 years. They're just sick to death of big government and politics as usual. They're tired of career politicians. We're seeing this trend happen all over the country.
We are.
And people think that Texas is just a shoo-in, that these career politicians are the ones who have to have it. But when you have 19 out of 103 House and Senate Republicans in Austin, only 19 have called for a special session to have vaccines that are mandated by an employer made illegal in the state. Only 19. There's a problem.
There, in living here, because I lived here in the 80s, and it was a different state. And Texas has this image of, going to be the last to stand. Not if things don't change.
No, let me tell you exactly. And what I'm doing is I'm campaigning on numbers. So we've seen in the last 7 years under this governor, we've seen an increase of spending by 19% with a population growth of only 5.4%. Now, if you do the math on that and you project that out the next 5 years, we look exactly like California. So spending has increased by $48 billion under this governor. That's not fiscal conservatism. We're growing. I call it the big blob. It rolls through everything it touches, it consumes, and it moves on and leaves everything in its wake, and it's getting bigger and bigger in Austin. The priorities of the GOP were not recognized in this 87th legislative session. We know that the doors have been thrown wide open to big tech in Silicon Valley. We've got Tesla here now. I just drove past their plant this morning east of Austin.
Isn't that a good thing?
No, it's not, because if you bring in what I continue to remind people is we've become a sinkhole state. So that means we're just like Illinois. So that means every time a job is created, the money we're spending to create those jobs works out to about $500,000 per employee.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so we're a sinkhole state.
So in other words, by saying, hey, you can come in and you won't pay the taxes that you have to pay.
Well, this governor just gave over $900 million in tax breaks to Samsung. That's a South Korean company. Meanwhile, people in Texas, their property taxes are skyrocketing. Oh, yeah. We rank 6th in the nation in property taxes, and that's the most immoral tax there is, because you never own your land and you never own your... when people think of Texas, they think of J.R. Ewing, right? You own a ranch, you have oil money. We're apologizing for both. We're penalizing people for both. We're known for that. We're a global power, recognized for energy. And you know about a year ago this week, everything was frozen out and shut down. So whenever these California Silicon Valley companies, and by the way, we are the number 2 subsidizer of Facebook in the nation as a state.
What?
We give Facebook $165 million a year. So
why?
Exactly. Exactly.
No, seriously. They have a lot of money. Do we need to be giving them any?
You would think that Zuckerberg could afford dinner.
Yeah.
But we're subsidizing them because we're giving them cash because we are throwing the money at them. They want Silicon Valley money, and they want to turn Austin into Silicon Valley. This governor, and when I say them, that's who I'm talking about. People don't recognize we're now a home to Tesla. Google, Amazon, Facebook, and so many others. Samsung is coming here. This governor sent a congratulatory letter to the CCP on 70 years of rule in China. The deals that are being made, people have no clue that what's going on. These are verifiable facts. So what I remind people is, you say it's jobs for Texans by bringing these companies here. But what happens when they bring their ideologies here and they demand that you get a vaccination in order to keep your job? And you say no. Well, they're going to fire you, and they're going to call their cronies out in Silicon Valley, move them to Texas with their ideologies. They're already indoctrinated and inoculated. They're going to bring their money. They're going to bring their influence. They're going to bring their votes.
We see it happening in Austin now. It's always been weird. But now Austin...
Well, when 15% of the population of Austin is choosing a transient homeless lifestyle as a choice, Some of them have jobs, and they choose to live under a bridge. That's weird. That's weird.
Isn't that the slogan? Austin is weird.
Exactly.
Keep
They
Austin
accomplished
weird.
it.
Yeah.
They accomplished it. If you're unless you're getting raped or in the process of being murdered, you can't call the police in Austin. And then they may or may not show up because of their defund the police initiative. I call them the blueberries in the chili, whether it's Dallas and now Fort Worth, where I live, Austin, of course, El Paso, San Antonio, Houston. They just broke a news story of a mail carrier dumping 38 voter registration cards in the trash. They caught it on a Ring camera in Harris County, which is Houston. We've got a lot of problems here in this state. Texas is not the Texas that most Texans think it is. And it's because of big government. Look, you make a great argument in the Great Reset. You make a great argument for having smaller districts and more representatives. That's not what I'm talking about. That's a smart idea because it diminishes the ability for people to just be crooked politicians. You're neighbors with the people that you're representing.
Correct.
But right now we're sending these people to Austin, and this big government flow that we're sending in there. People are surprised when I tell them that this governor spent $295 million on contact tracing, that he's violated your constitutional rights 16 times at least in the last 18 months. When he shut down the state, he shut down 3 million jobs, deemed people and their businesses non-essential. Couldn't go to work, couldn't go to weddings, couldn't go to funerals unless it was George Floyd's. You couldn't go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym, but constitutionally, if I sign a contract,
that changed my mind.
That's the one, right?
Yeah.
If I sign a contract with a gym, the government cannot come in and make that contract null and void. That's a constitutional right. We sweep those things under the rug. So I tell people all the time, I said, read the fine print. Forget the big R or the D by their name. Read the fine print. So the media wants Abbott to run again because they know he can't defend his record, whether it's the border, whether it's property taxes, the energy grid, or shutdowns. They can't do it. He's not going to be able to defend it. They would love to see Abbott versus O'Rourke because they're going to make this a personality race, all right? Well, Abbott doesn't have a personality. Let's be honest, I'm the only guy in this who has a personality. And so, and I include my friends who are my primary opponents that we've now done at least 20 events and another one tonight together in candidate forums. And I can give their speeches and they can give my speeches at this point. We've gotten together with an anyone but Abbott agenda when it comes to this March 1st primary. Early voting in Texas has already started. And we have a lot of support. We have more support than I even give myself credit for. And so what I'm encouraging people to do is I say, in 1773, they had the Boston Tea Party. Let's go to Travis County, have an Austin Tea Party. Because these guys that are incumbents in there, they're not representing the priorities of Texas citizens. And they've got to go.
I will tell you that I have been shocked by the Republicans in Texas. I mean, I just went up and spoke to the legislators and senator and governor of Idaho. And I said, look, I bet on 2 states. I have a ranch in Idaho and a home here. And I bet on 2 states. And I'm not sure Texas is going to stand.
It won't stand. And I hate to agree with AOC. And just last week in San Antonio, she said it's inevitable that Texas will turn blue. We have got to take the power from these monopolies, which are these power centers, these mob-ruled major metropolitan areas. One of the things that I advocate for is if you're going to have an amendment added to the Constitution of Texas, that it needs to be ratified by 3/4 of the counties in the state, because that's the only way we're going to get back to the true values of Texas. I was in Bandera, Texas, with 2,000 great Texans. I mean, that's Texas. That's Texas. These transplants coming in here. I wish there was a way we could say you got to live here at least 4 years before you can vote. Just because I believe the spirit of Texas is caught, it's not taught.
Yes.
You either get it or you don't get it. It's like those squiggly line pictures. You got to look through them and you see a pirate ship or whatever. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's the way Texas is. It's more contagious than COVID. You want to give it away. You become a Texas evangelist.
Yeah.
There's a humble arrogance about Texas. We walk a little bit taller. We stick our chest out. But we don't rank first in any category. Nothing. We're not even close to first. I mean, our economy is 38th. Our spending is outrageous. We're in the high 30s, low 40s in terms of education, healthcare, opportunity.
Alaska would point out we're not even number 1 in size.
Right.
They're very proud of that.
Yeah, I've got a great T-shirt that's got an Alaskan with his arm around a little cowboy. Says, "Don't worry, little buddy." But I want us to lead, and not just. And I believe the nation does look to Texas.
I think Texans are right now kind of embarrassed. We look at Florida,
right,
and we're like, why is Florida leading the way on all of this stuff?
Right. There's no waffle irons in the shape of Florida. You know, South Dakota doesn't have its own toast. And Ron DeSantis came out and said, "Welcome to Florida, the new Texas." That ticked me off. But he's right.
I said to him, do you have term limits in Texas? In Florida? And he said, yeah, I can run for one more term. And I said, good. Can you move to Texas after that? Just keep moving around until you hit all 50 states, and I think we'll be fine. Chad, hang on just a second. I want to talk to you a little bit more about what's happening up in Canada, which is truly terrifying stuff. Chad Prather, who is running for governor here in Texas, and a guy who is with the Blaze TV and has his own show and podcast. Very funny stuff. Great, really informative and funny. Chad, let me talk to you about Canada a bit, because I don't think Americans understand that is right around the corner for us without ever getting into your truck.
Right. You know, who knew it only took 18 wheels to flatten the curve, right? You know, and you brought it out on your show, I think it was last week, and, you know, they've only had a charter, which is equivalent to our Bill of Rights, since 1982. We've had our Bill of Rights since 1791. I think these people, for them, this level of freedom is very new to them. It's very fresh. They want to defend it. Justin Trudeau is a dictator by every sense of the word.
Oh yeah,
and he's a zit on the rear end of the world. And I can't stand the guy, right? And you talk about a guy that needs to be canceled. If we're going to embrace cancel culture, this guy.
Yeah.
So it's very fresh to them. And you know, Western Canadians are not like Eastern Canadians. I mean, they call that the Texas of the North, right? Alberta. And that's where a lot of this has originated. And they're pursuing freedom. But you're right. They're kind of, it's almost like a trial run of how this would look in America. And these Canadians are standing up to it in a big way. This convoy will be there January 6th.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's going. They will be called insurrectionists. They will be called, that's one.
It bothers me what's happening with the finance minister, who is part on the board of the Great Reset for the WEF. But what they're doing now is no bank accounts, no credit cards, everything's frozen. Not just for the people who are there, but if you are associated in any way or try to help the people that are there or have given any money. And now they're also saying banks can decide whether or not to take their land. That's
this, and
way beyond.
You bring it out so good in the book. And, I've had Justin on my show who has contributed to your book. And this is behavioral economics. Is what this is. You don't behave right.
Correct.
Then we're going to penalize you. You can't put food on your table.
Literally.
We're just going to starve you out.
Correct.
And at what point in time, this is why the 10th Amendment in America is so important. Understanding states' rights, sovereignty of states. And they don't have, Canada, it's not America. And a lot of times I think people confuse that. Why are they putting up with this? Well, in many ways they don't have any choice. But it doesn't matter when it comes to global economics, because this is going to happen.
But do you think people here are waking up and seeing it's the same people, the same language?
Always.
And do you think that they're waking up and going, holy cow, that could happen to me?
So, we've talked about it on my show, as well as, this book, as you say, Glenn, this could be the most important book you've ever written.
Oh, it is.
It is.
For sure.
And there's no doubt about it. We say that tongue in cheek, but it really is.
Yeah.
I've tried to explain to people what ESG is, what MMT is, make them understand that this is where you think your credit score matters. You think your FICO score matters. That doesn't matter anymore. These folks are going to penalize you based on your social media, based on where you've spent your money, what your browser history says.
Literally, what your browser history
exactly,
says.
And they're going to make it where you cannot even provide for your family. And this is real. It's coming. This is what's going to happen unless we take this back. And listen, these politicians, one of the reasons I'm running in Texas, because these politicians are bought out by the elites. You look at their donor list. You see multinational corporations. You see these big donors, these billionaires. You see Silicon Valley. You see foreign entities. I mean, if you run it through enough times, you see cartels. You see Chinese money. We've got to get these people out of the way and get back. What I say is Texas needs to be a constitutional sanctuary state. If it doesn't fit in the Constitution, then it doesn't do business on Texas soil. We've gotten so bloated and expanded beyond that. If we continue this big government, this crazy out of control big government, where people look at it and they say, well, there's nothing we can do. We just feel helpless now. What can we do? Well, you've let it get so big and become so. The government was never designed for you to be dependent upon it. Mm-hmm. And they've made you dependent on it. And that goes for, quote, conservatives as well. Because if suddenly the government tomorrow was made small, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself because we've gotten so dependent on it. So what's it going to take? We've got to get these people out of there.
I will tell you that as bad as it sounds, maybe to you listening, you're like, that's Texas?
Right.
This is a haven compared to anything back east 100%. Or out west. I mean, I remember when I came here and it was this bad when I got here. I thought, oh my gosh, this is an island of freedom that I've not seen since my childhood. Right. So it's still much, much better, but it's not going to withstand.
It's an untenable future.
Yep.
Open borders, a target on our back by Washington, D.C. When you turn on the news, you see the borders of Texas. You don't see New Mexico, Arizona, or California. They focus on Texas. Why are they being brought to the Texas border? Because they want Texas to fall. This administration particularly needs Texas, which is seen as a beacon of liberty and freedom and pride. We have the size, leverage, economy, population to put D.C. back on track. They don't want to be put back on that track.
I will tell you how true that is. I just read somebody who was growing up in Romania when the wall fell, and she said, my dad became outspoken because he watched Dallas. And they said, the communists let us play Dallas because they said, look how decadent they are. But they saw people that could control their own future and own their own land and grow. And she said, Dad looked and went, God bless J.R. Ewing.
That's it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's it.
Chad Prather, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you again soon.